Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Hey Amud Aleph, starting with Daf Dalid Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. Our Mishnah states that we separate the Kohen Gadol 7 days before Yom Kippurim. The Mishnah adds, in case that Kohen Gadol would find a Pesul and be disqualified from the Avodah, since the Kohen Gadol must do the Avodah on Yom Kippurim, we then prepare another Kohen Gadol in his place. Reish Lakish turns to Rabbi Yochanan and says to him, if indeed we are going to learn from Miluim, that from Miluim, Aaron Ubonov were segregated for 7 days before the 8th day of their Avodah, and from there we learn out to Yom HaKippurim, well, he says, by Miluim, whatever is written in Miluim is Ma'akev. And therefore, if it was not performed in the Miluim, one of those days, it would disqualify the entire Avodah. In which case, Reish Lakish says, then we'd also have to then say that's also true when it comes to the segregation by Yom Kippur, that the Kohen Gadol then segregated. And since the second Kohen Gadol, who would be in his place, is only prepared, but he's not segregated, so you cannot learn out from Miluim. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't respond. We can say for him that indeed that's the case by Miluim. It is Me'akev by Miluim, but the Limud to Yom Kippurim itself is not Me'akev. Al Kol Panim, the Gemara now says, based on that, Michlal de Travayu Sfir Lehu. It follows that both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan hold Miluim Kol HaKosu Ben Ma'akev Bon. Whatever is written by the Miluim is Ma'akev. If it was not done in one of those days of those Miluim, of the inauguration of the Mishkan, then it would poisel the Avodah. The Itmar Miluim Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanino. The Gemara proves how Rabbi Yochanan agrees to Reish Lakish that indeed it is Ma'akev the Miluim. Says the Gemara, we have 2 Amoraim Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Chanino. Chad Omar Kol HaKosu Behen Ma'akev Behen. Whatever is written by the Miluim is Ma'akev. V'chad Omar Dover HaMa'akev L'Doris Ma'akev Behen. Whatever is going to Ma'akev in the future generations, it would poisel that Avodah, then it would Ma'akev would be poisel in the Miluim if it was not performed in one of those days. She'ein Ma'akev L'Doris, Ein Ma'akev Ben. But if it was not going to be poisel in future generations, then it will not poisel the Avodah in the Miluim either. Tistayin, the Gemara says, let's conclude the Rabbi Yochanan, who the Omar Kol HaKosu Behen Ma'akev Behen. He is the one who holds that if it's written by Miluim and it was not performed one of those days, it would be Ma'akev. Midekol Omar Lei, how do we know? From the fact that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, this is back on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, what I was quoting before, Imam Miluim Kol HaKosu Behen Ma'akev Behen. If by Miluim, whatever is written is Ma'akev, and Rabbi Yochanan did not respond otherwise, so it implies, therefore, that Rabbi Yochanan agrees on this point with Reish Lakish, that indeed whatever is written by Miluim is Ma'akev. Tistayim, we conclude that it's Rabbi Yochanan and not Rabbi Chanina that holds that Kol HaKosuv Bohen is Ma'akev Bohen. Ask the Gemara, my Beinayu, what would be the difference between these 2 shitas of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina? Whether we say that it's written in the Miluim is Ma'akev or Poisel Avodah, and that sheet of Rabbi Chanina that says that if it's not going to be Poisel in the future generations, it's not going to be Poisel by the Miluim. Gemara explains on Daf Hey Amud Aleph at the top, Omar Rav Yosef, Smicha Ike Beinayu. We can find an avodah of smicha which was performed in the miluim, and that will be the difference between the two, because we'll find that it's not ma'akev in the future generations. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it would be a problem, since it was yes stated by miluim, it would be ma'akev, but according to Rabbi Chanina, it would not. As follows: Laman da Omar Kol HaKosu Bohen Ma'akev Bohen Smicha Ma'akva. According to the Mandomer that says, like Rabbi Yochanan, that which is written by Miluim is Ma'akev, then Smicha is Ma'akev. The Mandomer Dover she'ein Ma'akev L'Doros ein Ma'akev Bohen. Smicha L'Ma'akva. And since smicha is not ma'akiv b'dor, it's not going to ma'akiv over here. U'ledoros menolon the loy ma'akva. Ask the Gemara, where do you know in future generations that smicha is not ma'akiv? That's done on certain karbonos, where the owner puts his weight, his hands and his complete weight on the animal before bringing it as a carbon, before offering it. The Tanya, it says in the pasuk, and read the verse, "V'somach yadai al rosh ha'olam," referring to the smicha. He puts his hands on the head of the oila offering. V'nirtza loy lechaper alov, and it will be accepted for him to then be atoned from it. V'somach v'nirtza, the Gemara quotes. He does smicha, and he's going to be then accepted. Ask the Gemara to get an atonement. V'chi smicha mechaperes. Ask the Gemara, is smicha is what's going to then be the vital thing for the kapara? V'halo en kapara ela b'dam. We know it's the dam, ultimately the sprinkling of the dam on the mizbeach that brings kapara. Shneimar says ki adam hu benefesh yechaper. So how can you tell me that over here v'somach v'nirtze, which brings the kapara, umatam uloymar? So what is it coming to teach me? V'samach v'nirtza, says the Brisa. V'samach v'nirtza she'im asa l'smicha shayarei mitzvah. If he performs smicha as a shayar mitzvah, that means that he doesn't do smicha. Actually, he brings the carbon with neglecting to do smicha as a shayar mitzvah, because he says it's not integral to the mitzvah. It's a shayar, it's a leftover of the mitzvah, and therefore he does not end up doing smicha. It's considered as if he didn't get atonement because he didn't do the smicha and therefore didn't do bring the carbon in its complete form, in its choice way. But nonetheless, v'chiper, he does get kapara. So we see that it's not ma'akev the smicha. So this would be a nafka amina between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina. Although it was written miluim, according to Rabbi Yochanan, therefore it's ma'akev in the miluim, but according to Rabbi Chanina, it would not be ma'akev the miluim. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omar Tnufa Yikabanai. He finds another thing that will then be a difference between the two. Tnufa is the wavering in certain offerings. The kohen together with the bailim wave in all directions, shamayim va'aretz as well. Laman da Omar kol hakasu behen ma'akev bohen ma'akva. We know it was written in the miluim, because in the miluim there was a carbon shlomim that was waved. So there, the man Damar Rabbi Yochanan who says kol hakazuban is ma'akev would be ma'akev if that was not done in one of the days of the miluim. Ulaman Damar davar she'ein ma'akev l'doros ein ma'akev bohen loy ma'akva. Namely, Rabbi Chanina asked the Gemara, but l'doros minolan de ma'akva. From where do you see in future generations that the waving is not going to then ma'akev the avoida? The Tanya, because it says in the following brisa, litnufa lechaper. Again, it implies l'chara that the tnufa brings the kapara. Ask the Gemara, ask the brisa, v'chi tnufa mechaperes. Does the tnufa bring kapara? V'halo en kapara ela b'dam. It's the sprinkling of the dam on the mizbeach that ultimately brings the kapara. Shneimar ki adam hu nefesh yechaper. Umatam ulomer litnufa lechaper. So what does it mean when it says tnufa lechaper brings atonement? If you actually neglected to do the tnufa, it was a shiarei mitzvah, you felt it was not integral to the mitzvah, it was just a leftover of the mitzvah, and you didn't do it, then my law, because of ki'il l'chiper, then it's as if he didn't get a kapara. However, v'chiper, he does get the kapara, even though he didn't do it in the most choice, perfect, complete way, because he missed doing the tenufa. So we see over here that tenufa is not ma'akiv, and again, by the miluim, Rabbi Akiva there says, since it's written the miluim, it's ma'akiv, and Rabbi Chanina says it's not going to be ma'akiv l'doros, it's not ma'akiv the miluim. Rav Papa Mar Prishu Shvua Ikabenayu. He says a separation, sequestering of 7 days, that's going to be a difference between the two. Of course, by Miluim, there was a separation of 7 days for Aaron and his Bonov. Laman Damer Kol HaKosu Behen Ma'akev Behen Ma'akva. According to the Ma'an Damer, the opinion that says all that is written in Miluim is Ma'akev, so it's going to be Ma'akev. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Laman Damer Dover She'eno Ma'akev L'Dorois Eino Ma'akev Bohen Loy Ma'akva. And the other Mandomer, since it's not going to be Ma'akev in generations to come, therefore it will not be Ma'akev over here in the Miluim as well. Ask the Gemara, Uledorois Minolon dele ma'akva. Where do we see that in future generations the sequestering is not ma'akev, like by the Kohen Gadol before Yom HaKippurim? Says the Gemara, Medekotani maskinan v'lo kitani mafrishin. When it comes to the second Kohen Gadol, the Sgan Kohen Gadol, that would be in place of the original Kohen Gadol in the event that the Kohen Gadol got a psul, he was disqualified to do the avodah. There we don't say that we're mafrish the second Kohen Gadol, but rather we say we prepare him. So therefore we see that it's not ma'akev. Again, a nafkamim between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Yochanan said it is ma'akev because it's written by the Miluim. But according to Rabbi Chanina, since in the future generations it's not ma'akev, it's not going to be ma'akev, and the Miluim is either. Ravina says a fourth nafkamina. Ribui shiva umeshicha shiva ikbenayu. The ribui begadim of the Kohen Gadol, for him to wear 8 and not just 4 of the vestments of the Kohen Gadol, as well as the meshicha of the oil, the anointment of the oil for the beginning of his avodah. That will be a difference between the two. Certainly in the inauguration and the miluyim that was performed, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan will say that's ma'akev. Laman damer kol hakosu bohen ma'akev bohen ma'akva. Rabbi Yochanan says it was written by the miluyim. If it was not done one of those days, let's say he would wear only his 4 garments instead of all 8 garments, or alternatively he was not anointed that day, then it would ma'akev the avodah. Laman damer davar she'ein ma'akev ledor ein ma'akev bohen la ma'akva. But according to Rabbi Chanina, it will not be ma'akev. Ask the Gemara, Doris Minola and ma'akva. Where do we see that not wearing all 8 garments for the 7 days of the Kohen Gadol's new avodah, or him not being anointed each of those 7 days at the beginning of his avodah will not be ma'akev? The Tanya, because the Brisa says, "V'chiper hakoyin asher yimshach oisoi." The pasuk says that the Kohen will bring a kapara, will be atoning, that which has been he who has been anointed or has been inaugurated, to then serve in place of his father. What is this pasuk coming to say? We know that the Kohen Gadol is coming to do an atonement and do his avodah. The fish Nemar, since it says Shivas Yamin Yilboshom HaKoyin Tachas Tachto Mibonov, since it says in the pasuk for 7 days, he shall wear the vestments in place of his children. The Kohen Gadol will wear the vestments. Ainli ela nisrabe shiva v'nimshach shiva. I only know that if he then has 7 days of wearing those 8 vestments and 7 days of being anointed, nisrabe shiva v'nimshach yom echad, or nisrabe yom echad v'nimshach shiva minayin. But if it was only 7 days of one and 1 day of the other, in other words, if it wasn't a complete 7 days of both, minayin, where do I know that that's still going to be valid? Talmud Lormer says the Brisa, asher yimshach oisoi v'asher yimale es yodoi mikol mokoim. Therefore, the pasuk says that he'll be yimshach oisoi, and he'll be anointed, and he'll then fill his hands, which refers to them wearing the vestments in any way, which means even if it's for 1 day, that means if he only had one day of the vestments of all 8 vestments, or one of the days of the oil, that would be sufficient. Ask the Gemara, we see that when it comes to adding the vestments, all 8, that's required lechatchila. Mishicha shiva lechatchila minolam. But where do you know that all 7 days require be anointed? In other words, the post that we just brought before, that implies that indeed there'll be a wearing of the begadim for 7 days. It says Shivas Yom Yilbosham HaKoyin Mitachta Mibonov. But how do you know that the Kohen Gadol also has to be anointed for 7 days? If you want to say Midi Itzrich Krol Lemute, for the fact that we need the latter pasuk to then exclude all 7 days, therefore it implies that lechatchili you do need 7 days. From the fact that it says in the pasuk, "Ubigde hakodesh asher la'aron yu lebonov acharov, and add lemashcha bohem ulemale bam es yadam. The fact that it says lemala bam es yadam refers to wearing the vestments, and it makes a juxtaposition to the word lemashcha bohem. Lemashcha bohem is mashma then that he needs to be anointed in the same way that he has to wear 7 days for 7 days all 8 garments. We also learn out for all 7 days he has to have the anointment. Iskish meshicha l'ribui ma ribui shiva af meshicha shiva. Just as he requires the 8 garments all 7 days, lichat chila, so too he's required to have been anointed all 7 days, lichat chila.